It is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talker. Neil Atkinson, Gareth Roberts, Andy Heaton and John Gibbons with you until 7:30. Really looking forward to a lovely evening. It's great to have Mr. Friday Night himself. And John, what are your plans?
I'm going to a wedding. My mate Mert, who we used to live with, he's getting married today. He's probably getting married right now as we speak.
You're an evening guest.
I am an evening guest, yeah. So looking forward to it.
What's your evening guest game? I think it's a complex thing, the evening guest, because everyone else has had a few. You turn up, you feel you're a bit off the pace. Yeah. Do you go hard early, or do you think, you know what, I'll just be the last man standing?
I think you'd add a new energy, I think, especially at my...
There's a responsibility on you, isn't there?
Yeah, I remember at my wedding, because there was a lot of booze at my wedding. I don't know if you remember.
I vaguely.
We were committed to getting people drunk, and so it was our main objective of the day, get married second. So it was... so I think you'd bring new energy, you know... So that's me. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be early on the dance floor, I think.
You're going to be one of the ones leading the charge.
Yeah, I never really know what to wear as well when you're an evening guest, I think. So I've gone for like shoes, quite smart pants, and like a sort of cardigan option, because I think I think you can be too smart, but then obviously you don't want to be too casual.
Okay. I like all that sort of stuff. All the best to mate, really. Really pleased for him. I didn't realise it was him. Opening question comes from Stephen Bridges. Just to let you know, by the way, on this show, we're going to have a chat around Liverpool versus Spurs and the lads who did well. A talk around dropping points, the fact that it will happen to Liverpool eventually. It didn't last weekend. And we're going to be speaking to Robbie Scotcher about Crystal Palace, and also having a chat amongst ourselves about Crystal Palace. But before then, we've got the opening question. It comes from Stephen Bridges, and he's asking this. Goalkeeper you'd most like to see play in attack. Who's the goalkeeper you'd most like to see play in attack? He's asked this question for AFQ, actually one of our tour player shows, but because I've got loads of fuzzy questions for that, I just thought I'd snaffle it for this. Gareth, who is the goalkeeper Gareth Roberts you'd most like to see play in attack?
I think it's got to be Bruce Grobbelaar, to be honest.
So you're using the historic... I was thinking maybe just current Premier League.
Oh, was you thinking current? Because I was thinking Brucey would be brilliant in his pomp, running round, kicking off on everyone, doing handstands, swinging off bars when he scored a goal. But current Premier League,
it's tough, isn't it?
It is tough.
There's a lack of goalkeeping characters these days.
There is, yeah. It's changed a little bit, hasn't it? Certainly since Brucey's days, it used to be, you know, where all the madmen went in goal, and you know, even South all over the road as well. He was another one who was a bit of a character.
Well, he still plays up front apparently in Sunday League in Wales, and apparently he gets a few like.
Yeah. I bet you he nets.
Yeah, I bet he does. Yeah,
just bumbles everyone out the way and just puts it in.
Honestly, handy.
I reckon he's dead-eyed. I reckon he's blamming them in the corners. You're not living with. I don't think you're living with Big Nev.
Yeah.
I don't think you're living with Big Nev.
I mean, I might be exaggerating that still, but until recently he was playing Sunday.
I reckon just because it looked mad, I'll have Peter Cech then playing up front
with his helmet on.
Yeah, with his helmet on, just because it'd be mad, like basically seeing someone from. You know, I'll give you an 80s reference here. He looks like Wordy, which was a kids program, and this fella used to float around with all letters stuck to him. Look it up. He looks like him. So Wordy up front would be good for me.
Okay. Andy Heaton, you're producing in the background, but I'm going to pull you in on this one. Goalkeeper you most like to see play up front?
Premier League has to be.
Yeah.
Valdez.
Valdez is a good answer. It's a good. I can imagine him number 10 dropping off little through balls here and there. Looked like he was having a ball.
He had a good
Arsenal.
game at Arsenal.
And he had a lovely time. He was really happy. No, he did. Honestly, Johnny repeatedly kept cutting to him. He had a smile on his face, and he just came for everything. It was like he just simplified it in his mind. He honestly looked like a fella who was really enjoying himself. Who would you go for?
I presume he's still knocking around somewhere, so I'm going to go for Paddy Kenny, just because he always looked knackered when he played in goal. So imagine Outfield. Imagine when he had to actually run a bit.
He always looked like he'd done like a shift painting and decorating, and just coming out a game afterwards.
Big rosy cheeks. So Paddy Kenny trying to put an actual shift in.
Is Neil Warnock managing anywhere? Because you can pretty much guarantee that's where Paddy Kenny is.
He's somewhere. He's got a club.
Links on this sort of stuff. All right, Liverpool versus Spurs. Then I want to. I didn't watch the game live. I've seen it back since, Gareth. And the big thing I took from it was whether Liverpool had won or lost the game. They won it, and I think they won it deservedly in the end. Loads of lads were doing themselves favours, I think, and it suddenly looked like a squad with tons of depth, more depth than in many senses I was expecting. Not to be mean, but the manager makes 11 changes, and you're already thinking, you know what, he doesn't have to do much here next season if we have got European football, because if you can make 11 changes and Liverpool can look like this, the opposition went fantastic, but we look deeper than Spurs is my point, and they're the ones who are in European competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was it was a mix as well, wasn't it? I mean, it's probably important to say, if anyone didn't see the game, for instance, that he didn't just throw in 11 kids. There was a lot of experienced players out there, but it did highlight the depth of Liverpool's squad right now. And I was a little bit going to the ground when I heard he'd made that many changes, a little bit worried that I thought, oh, we could lose this one. And I know a lot of people were saying only the League Cup and all the rest of it, but I like the positivity that's around the club at the moment. I think it's feeding into the players.
You want momentum.
I think, you can see the way the players play, that the positive, that the minds are in the right place. And I just thought, even if it is only the League Cup, I just thought a defeat could burst the bubble a little bit. So instead, though, it was fantastic to see players like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who we've seen star for the under-23s. And okay, it was in an inexperienced Spurs side in many ways, but nevertheless, to play at Anfield in front of 50,000 under the lights and everything else, that brings its own pressure. And for me, he came through that. And so now, at another point, should he need to be called upon, he will be absolutely fine. Ajaria will be absolutely fine. And then some of the others, I thought it was fantastic to see Divock Origi coming back to more like the type of player that we know he is. It looks to me that he's been struggling a little bit this season when he has had his little cameos here and there. So for him to come in and for him to get a bit of personal momentum as well, that's fantastic, because that makes me think now, at Palace or at any games coming up, if you need him as an option coming off the bench, he now looks in a place where he's ready to go, whereas perhaps before he wasn't. So loads and loads of positives from the Spurs game. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the feel good that's followed.
Yeah, I think you mentioned Origi there. I liked seeing the two up front option, because I think things are obviously going well at the moment with this front three, the way they're playing, the way they're interchanging. But you kind of never know, really. The weather's going to get worse, the pitches are going to get worse, and just generally people come in and out of form. Those front three and the lads behind them are playing really, really well at the moment. But you never know when injuries might come. You might lose people. There's talk that we're going to lose them to Brazil, and they don't get back till, I don't know, I think it's 20 minutes before kickoff on one game or something. And so it's nice to have other options there, and people always want to look at ways that you might start falling over, and you might say, well, Liverpool, they play one way, they play with these fast lads. Well, we could surprise someone when we can go, we're just going to play Origi and Sturridge up front, then see if you like that, and then that suddenly completely throws the opposition. And it's nice to kind of have that option, and I'm sure Jurgen is tempted to use it, even if it's just last 20 against someone. So say at the weekend against Palace, I'm sure he'll go with the three: Firmino, Coutinho and Mane. I'm sure they'll go for that. But if it's 20 to go and maybe we're one each or something, and we need a bit of a change, well, take two off, but put them two on, and then the centre halves has certainly got something to think about there. So it's nice that we can play in different ways. It's nice to have options, and it's nice to see the players look motivated and hungry. The ones who maybe aren't quite getting in the team as much as they'd like at the moment.
Well, on that, I'll talk about Albi Moreno, and he still managed to Albi Moreno at times. It's what he's going to do, but he was simultaneously perfectly neat and tidy. It would have been, what I was almost impressed with was that he didn't look absolutely desperate to impress. He just had a good game. It wasn't as though he was trying to be the best player on the pitch. It wasn't as though he was trying to stake a claim. He just decided he was going to be a really good player for Liverpool, and I thought he achieved it.
Yeah, no, I thought he had a decent game. I think I said this before. I think it had a lot to do with the fact there was young kids on the pitch as well, so maybe he wasn't as tempted to take a risk as what he might normally do. He was quite disciplined. He was still took up a high position, but no, he didn't. One mad triple spin aside, he looked quite solid. No, he got the ball as well. But there was a couple of times where you thought he was going to dive in there, and he held off a little bit. So maybe the penny's dropping a little bit.
Was it a comment that you found?
There's a brilliant. I was going to say brilliant comment on the site this week where a lad said, I think people's main problem with Albi Moreno is that he goes into tackles like he's jumping down a log flume. Absolutely superb.
That is indeed what he's doing. Alexander-Arnold, Gareth, he looks like the cover for Klein. Klein's very reliable in terms of his fitness and his form, but he looks like the cover for Klein there, and he should already have one eye on Leeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting as well, because they've basically coached him into being this right back. He's not a right back traditionally. He's played in midfield, and I think you saw this week from what's he called? About the fella from MK Dons who found him. We were talking about Carl Robinson. Yeah, he said he was really surprised. He was the man who sort of signed him for Liverpool's academy at age 6 or so. And he said, I'm really surprised now to see him as a right back given his skill set, which tells you something. And I think maybe it's always dangerous, isn't it, to make these sorts of parallels, but it is a parallel nevertheless that Steven Gerrard starts out at right back for Liverpool, and I think maybe in the future, you know, he probably won't be a right back, but for now, yeah, absolutely, we need to cover at right back, and it seems quite clever management, and it seems like, you know, Michael Beale and Jurgen Klopp have got some joined up thinking there, and they've identified that as a problem in the squad.
On this, Gareth, I mean, I think it's interesting that the process of turning Alexander-Arnold into a right back starts last season. You know, it started around last March, I think, was when it was a marked, noticeable thing, and that, I think that shows the extent to which, and that we weren't linked with the right back all summer.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when all the early links come out and all that sort of stuff, I think it shows the extent to which, you know, a lot of what we're doing this season is now 6 months, 7 months, 8 months in the planning. Yeah, and I think that's really reassuring as far as I'm concerned, that, you know, we planned to bring this lad through in that position 8 months ago.
And there seems to be a lot of clever thinking really around Liverpool right now, which is another thing I'm really enjoying. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's an example, of course, and then, you know, even the stuff that they're putting out there all the time, there's key messages going out into the public all the time. So another one is that Klopp basically said, you know, I'd love it if we could have a summer where we don't sign anyone, and it's because we're saying to all the younger lads, you're all going to get a go, you're the squad. And I think those type of messages are absolutely brilliant, because when you've got an academy, and when you've got an under-23 side, and when you've got an under-18 side, all those things should matter. There should be a pathway to the first team. It shouldn't just be, oh, well, let's churn a load of lads through, and if anyone's any good, well, great. You know, it feels like there's an actual development programme going on here, and it feels like it's joined up, and that hasn't always been the case at Liverpool. And it ties in as well to the stuff that was reinforced this week. Paul Joyce breaking the story again about that, you know, Liverpool eventually will leave Melwood, and that there will be a joined up site, which could be Kirby, it could be elsewhere. But again, there's no downside to that for me. You know, if everyone's at the same complex working together, it feels like an actual football club then, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you hear Beale talk about that, because he says, you know, well, you can go to training complexes and they're all on the same site, but, you know, you put a fence in between them, and his quote was, you might as well be the Berlin Wall sometimes. So, you know, it's not just a case of putting them all in the same place and suddenly everyone's big one happy family. You know, but the mindset of the club, you're right, is to do that. And I think Neil's point on Trent is excellent one, and worth knowing that this time last year he was scoring goals away at Man United for the under-18s and as an attacking midfielder, not just a central midfielder. They were actually pushing him forward, and he was the under-18s' best player. And so it's brave, I think, to, as a coach, to say, right, well, actually, I know you're our best player and you're scoring loads of goals from attacking right midfield, but we're going to play you right back now. And it just shows the focus at this level. You know, you can get too caught up on results sometimes. You know, if the under-18s have a couple of bad results, you know, people can go, oh, what's going on there? You know, well, they are thinking about it a little bit, but they're not thinking about it loads. The easiest thing in the world was to just give Trent a free roll because he was the best player, but instead they played him at right back, where you can't influence the players much, but they were working on him. They had their eye on this moment where that's where you get the team at first, and I do stress at first, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up playing in midfield for Liverpool. Moving
around, someone who was playing in midfield for Liverpool there before we go to the break, Kevin Stewart. Andy, it's a good performance, and it's interesting how close we've actually now got to a situation where if Henderson got himself a knock of some description, you know, there'd be a conversation. I'm not saying it'd go to Stewart, but you'd feel as though there could be a plausible conversation about whether or not Stewart or Chan would be better suited to go and sit in there in midfield for him.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I think eventually so he's going to be Chan, but he didn't do his chances any harm. He's come back in after a spell out. Similar to Moreno in a way, didn't try and do too much, which can sometimes happen. You know, they come and go, oh, I've got points of proving, neat and tidy and all that. But he could quietly get 100 plus appearances for Liverpool. There's a bit of an everyman because he doesn't do anything particularly badly. He just doesn't stand out that much. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. Okay, this is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk. Just want to mention that as this is going out, we'll be in the Blackie doing an event with Howard Gale around his book, his excellent book. Do take a chance to read it if you can. But also he's going to be part of an event on the 4th of November with John Barnes and Trevor Sinclair on the power of sport used to make positive change. There's some music in that as well, and there's a Mandela Scouse, it says here, believe it or not. If you'd like a ticket, it's, as I say, it's called Living the Legacy, the event. You can Google it, but we'll also tweet it out out and we'll put it somewhere else as well. We'll make it aware of sort of where we're up to, and there's loads and loads going on there. It's happening at Everton, the Alex Young Suite. It's a 7 p.m. start, or 7 p.m. doors for the half 7 start on the 4th of November. You might want to consider if you can get down to that. And also the Howard Gale event we're doing tonight, is book launch, is free at the Blackie. If you're listening to this, feel free to switch off, stop what you're doing and rush down to see us. This is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk. After the bench we'll have a little chat about Ajaria, about Grujic, and then we'll move on to talk about dropping points. See you in a sec. Welcome back to the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk. That was 1 week by the Bare Naked Ladies. John, you do love that, don't you? It's legit.
Yes, Andy's back in the studio. Yeah, I love it. It's a brilliant song. They're quite good, you know.
They are quite good. I think they're one of those bands that have been unfortunately named when they first started and thought, we won't be that good and we'll just be messing around. And actually they've got some really good songs.
Yeah. I've seen them live. They played
have you?
Yeah, the Royal Course, and they were good. They've got more good songs than you think.
Are they better than the Trash Can Sinatras?
Well, who is?
That's an awful name, though, isn't it? If we do an awful band name.
I want to come in a second. I want to talk about this drop points thing, that we're going to drop points at some point. But before then, I want to talk about Ovie Ejaria as well, Gareth. Again, impressive performance. And it's another marker for this journey to the first team thing, which is what we were talking about earlier on. He's shown that there is a pathway, that progression can come really, really quickly. And that, you expect to see him start or get by the end of next season. Wouldn't surprise you if you've seen him have 20 games for the Reds.
Yeah, absolutely. He was great. He looked technically brilliant. Didn't look out of place again. And I think when you see young players take to the pitch in a game like that, you expect a bit of nerves. You expect some mistakes. And to be honest with you, the mistakes that stood out the most for me on the night, and I don't want to single these players out, but it didn't come really from the kids. I thought Clavin looked a bit dodgy at times. Lucas had a couple of moments, obviously gave the penalty away, and it was actually the kids were more leading by example, if you like. So yeah, brilliant again, and Arsenal must be sort of really kicking themselves now that they let that lad go, because he looks like a player who's comfortable at Premier League level again, and to be saying that about a teenage player is superb. And we've talked, how many conversations have we all had, all Reds down the years, about there's not much coming through the academy these days, and we don't seem to be producing a certain standard, or buying them in, or making them locally. And then here we are now. There seems to be a little glut of players starting to come through at all levels that you're like, hang on, this feels a little bit special again now. So yeah, fantastic.
Do you think that there's an element of the manager? Do you think the manager's going to give him a chance? That they know that there's a potential that they can get in there? I mean, because there's always been that. It's like funny with talking about Trent before playing right wing. There's always been the sense that, well, if you weren't in like the top two of that group, you've got no chance. And John said before, they've got like this elite group now, up at the academy, where they're thinking, I've got a chance here. So like it
interchanges, doesn't it? It's like whoever's playing best at the time goes and trains to the first team.
Them go every week.
So there's more carrot around and less. Less
definitely.
stick.
And Ajaria, we were talking about it earlier in the week on the Central League show. What did we do about the academy on tour player? And the rise of Ajaria has been phenomenal. In terms of we went to see Michael Beale last Friday, and he was laughing, saying at the start of the season they write down with the players, what's your aim for the season? And Ajaria was like, I want to establish myself in the under 23s team, because he's moved up from the under 18s, and there's a lot of midfield talent in that 23s team. He's like, I want to be establishing the team, so you're picking me, and now he's in the first team. You know what I mean? It's like, and it is, but it just shows that how quickly it can happen if you.
He's still 18, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's so I mean. Trent's even younger than Ajaria. Trent should still be playing for the under-18s now, and so it just shows how quickly it can happen if your attitude's right, if you work hard and you take your chance while it's there. That's what Ajaria did in the summer. He went away and took his chance against in those pre-season games, and so I think that's really important as well for the young players, because you can have a couple of bad months, or you can have an injury and think, I can't waste any time, I can't lose any time here, I can get them down. Whereas I think the reason the under 23s are playing so well, and they had a really good win against Everton again last week, who Everton are top of the league, by the way, a really good win. I think it's proved to them that actually it's not as hard as maybe you think to get into the manager's mind, and then it's up to you.
It seems quite telling to me as well that it almost doesn't seem like a surprise to them, if you know what I mean. So they're coming into the side and they look comfortable there, and that says to me, like you're saying, Andy, that they've almost got experience of sharing a pitch with these players. They feel involved. It's not like Klopp's just rocked over to Kirby one day and gone, "You lad, you're playing." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've heard about stories like that in the
past.
past.
When Kenny came in, I mean, to be fair to Kenny, he didn't have any time, but he went, just go and get Flano, and then he was in against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Flano and Robbo, wasn't it, as he said.
That's what I mean. So if this feels like it's more, it's been a long time in the thinking, and this is the result of it, and it's fantastic.
Well, I mean, there was always the thing about where Houllier and then Rafa succeeded and would bomb up to the academy every 6 months ago, right, who've you got for me?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't part of the process of,
yeah,
we've got this lad and this lad, oh, no, maybe next year. There's more joined up thinking. A lot more joined up thinking, a lot more involvement, which, to be fair to Alex Inglethorpe, if he's happy to function under that system, then more power to him, because people get egotistical about things like this. There's been a divide, but we all know about the, Highway leaving, who's now back, and...
No, it's striking, I think, and it's the way in which it goes. All right, then, lots to look forward to, and I'm already looking forward to Leeds at home. Just a shame that it's Leeds at home, if we're all honest about it, but we've got to go from there. I've got to acknowledge at some point in my life, Leeds are allowed to win a football match occasionally, just not any time around me. It will be ideal. There's a general feel-good factor quickly around the club at the moment, John, and one of the things that struck me is that, I think it's human nature to fear the worst and to sort of begin to go, something's going to turn around and bite us at some point. And it's an easy thing to say, because something is going to turn around and bite us at some point. And I think that's what I almost want to say here to a certain extent. It struck me sort of when I was away and watching from afar and seeing the way people were interacting about the club. Everyone dropped points last weekend except for Chelsea. Everyone dropped points. And at some point we're going to drop points. And it's almost as though people are going, oh, you know what, we're going to drop points at some point. We're going to make a mistake. And it's, we are, because, that's how this league's going to be decided, basically. It's going to be who drops the fewest points. It's not going to be that there's going to be a side that don't drop any.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at the Man City example. When they were winning every week and everyone was like, oh, this, they're going to win everything. Guardiola kept saying, we're going to drop points, and we're going to drop points. And you feel like he was saying that almost to his team than he was to everyone else, because they've actually reacted pretty badly to not winning. They haven't won in 6 now, and I'm sure City will turn it round, and I'm sure, there'll be one of the teams fighting for the title at the end. But I think that's as important to Liverpool is how you react to drop points. It doesn't, as you say, you're not going to win every game between now and the end of the season. It's just impossible to do, and so if they do drop points against Palace on Saturday, which I don't necessarily think they will, but if they do, then everyone needs to keep their head, and that's players and fans as well. So, and even if everyone else wins, it isn't the end of the world. It's how you then bounce back. You say, okay, we're going on another run now. They've won 5 in a row, is it, in the league? Okay, we'll just do that again, and that's how you kind of react to it, really, when it does happen. It's all about keeping your head and believing in what you're doing as footballers, really, and believing in and all of us really believing in what the football club are doing and believing we're getting there.
We did. We're unbeaten for some time, because the one we did drop points in is United at home, Gareth. And what I liked about West Brom was, we just got back on. We just got back playing our way. We just did our business. That's the key thing. It's not going to be, we are going to drop points. A defender's going to make a mistake at some point. A goalkeeper might not get something. A midfielder might make a mistake. We might miss a ton of chances, and the opposition take their only chance. All of that can happen and will happen because it's football. But it's how you then do the next thing. And what I loved about the West Brom performance was post United, we went, nope, we're just going to play our game. We're going to do our thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think fans as well here. I mean, I keep saying this on shows, but Klopp almost every single press conference emphasises that fans need to be in the right place as well as the players, and I think West Brom was quite good from the fans as well, to be honest, because
very much so.
Coming out of the ground after Man United, it felt really, really low. It was a real trudge out the ground along Walton Breck. It felt like we'd been beaten. And I thought, I quite quickly started to think, well, hang on, we've drawn with Manchester United, who've traditionally been a pain to Liverpool. It's not the worst result. Okay, it's disappointing. You don't think they're that good. You think we should be beating them and all the rest of it. But as you've both just said, it's about sort of keeping your head and just thinking, well, hang on, this is a good Liverpool side. This is a Liverpool side that is finding different ways to win. Different players are scoring. And it's won when it's played badly as well now, which is important. Swansea wasn't a good performance, but Liverpool found a way in that game to win it. And that's the old cliched mark of the champions type of thing. So let's keep our heads. There isn't an outstanding side in this league for me at the moment. It could be City later on. They are capable of going on a run. But right now we just need to stay in touch, keep winning, keep doing our thing. And, as you say, we will lose a match somewhere along the way, but I can guarantee we'll win more than we lose.
Okay, more on that when we talk about Crystal Palace. After the other side of 7 o'clock, we'll be speaking to Robbie Scotcher about Crystal Palace and what they're up to. First, though, John on Zoe Tynan.
Yeah, people locally might recognise the name Zoe Tynan. She was the young footballer who lost her life a couple of months ago. We've been talking about young footballers here. She was just 18. She was in the England under-19 squad. And a great player and a great girl. She's close to our family, and yeah, as I say, we all lost her a couple of months ago. But there's one of the physios at Man City, a fella called David Clark, who was the physio at Man City when she was there. He's running the Athens Marathon in Zoe's memory on November the 13th. So they've set up a Just Giving page. If you can help out, it's for the Alzheimer's Society, which is a charity Zoe supported and Nan actually suffered from. So if you can donate, that'd be great. If you listen on the radio, you can go to justgiving.com/fundraising/ in memory of Zoe Tynan. That's Tynan. If you can get involved. If you're listening via the podcast, we'll put that link in the site as well. But yeah, it'd be really nice if we could raise lots of money for her.
Okay, this is the Anfield Wrap on Radio City Talk. Back in a minute to speak to Robbie Scotcher about Crystal Palace. And here's this weekend's opposition, the wonderful Robbie Scotcher, joining us to talk about Crystal Palace. And it's a game that I think there's a fair few Liverpool supporters. I'm one of them, Robbie. You know, we're in a good place. We're playing some really, really good stuff. But it's going to be a really hard game for Liverpool the weekend. 5:30, Selhurst Park, under the lights. Everyone's had a pint. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be aggressive. And Crystal Palace are going to come out the traps, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, as you probably know, Palace fans love this tie. We just do, and not because we think we're going to win. We just know it's always a good game. I mean, I can't remember a bad Palace-Liverpool match in years.
I think that's a really fair point. A number of them have been crackers. There was the 2-1 last season. I think you beat us the season before. It's a good game at Anfield. I think you won last season at Anfield early in the season. It is a really, really good game of football, and I think it's because the style of the two sides is sort of meshed. There's a fair bit of opposites. Each of the teams does what the other side doesn't like. Palace won't like Liverpool's speed of movement, transition, cleverness in the forward line. Liverpool won't like coming up against Benteke. They won't like the pace that Palace have got in wide areas, and so this is another one of those games here where there'd be practically no scoreline that'd come as a surprise to me.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Obviously, they're probably playing the best football in the Premier League, or certainly they're the hardest team to beat in the Premier League. They just absolutely on. But every time we've ever played Liverpool, we've never been a better team than Liverpool, ever. There's not been a single Palace team that's been a better Palace team than Liverpool. Liverpool have always been much better, and we get results. So you just never know. It's just one of those games, I think. I can't wait.
No, it is. It is one of those games, and it will be brilliant. I'll go to the side in a minute. But the last four Palace results tell you everything you need to know about Crystal Palace. Really, they beat Sunderland 3-2 with a late comeback, which shows the determination and quality that there is in attack. And I want to come back to talk about that. There was the 1-1 at Everton where I felt, and I might be accused of being biased, but I felt you were worth all 3 points when you came up to Goodison Park. I certainly didn't think Everton were worth 3 points at any stage of the match. There was the strange home defeat against West Ham that has sort of settled the West Ham ship a little bit, which probably annoys you. And then there's the 3-1 defeat at Leicester. Leicester's a tough place to go even still, despite the fact that they're being a bit rocky on the road. But you would have expected more from Crystal Palace, and there is this. You're 9 games in, you've lost 4, won 3, drawn 2. There's a genuine inconsistency there, but that often when people say inconsistency, for instance, at the moment Sunderland are very consistent. They're terrible. Crystal Palace are inconsistent because there's every chance that as you just said there before, Crystal Palace could turn up against Liverpool the weekend, be the better side on the day, come away with a well-deserved victory and all 3 points. That's what inconsistency is. You could be very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, look at the last game we played. I mean, the Liverpool Palace, we were 1-0 up, and then Hennessy gave you a goal by passing it to you, and you had 10 men, and then you absolutely killed us. We were just backs against the wall. And then there was the penalty at the end, whatever anyone thinks about that. He's our player now, so we believe he's never dived ever. But, yeah, and if you look at the past few games, I mean, the Everton game, we were great. We were on fire. The West Ham game, they put an extra man in midfield, and it just killed us. It just killed the game, and we didn't know how to work that out. And then, obviously, I mean, watching that game, I was sitting next to a guy who was there's a guy in front of me who was kind of like a bit of a country bumpkin. And he can see that I'm a Palace fan, and he turns around and he was kind of like, what do you think of that Benteke? And I was like, oh yeah. We love him. He's a great player. We really like him. Oh, I saw him at Liverpool. He's rubbish. And I was like, he's not rubbish. I had this 10-minute argument with him about how we like Benteke, and he's a good player. And he was a good player at Liverpool. They just didn't play the same way. And then Benteke misses that penalty. I just felt like an idiot. But that showed the game. If we'd have scored that penalty, the second half of that game would have been great. I think we'd have gone on to win that match. And, I mean, against Leicester, we had a chance, we missed it. They capitalised. They were the better team on the day. And we are inconsistent. But it's a side, it really is a side that's kind of gelling and coming together. And, I still think it's going to be a good season, but it's going to be an up and down season.
It is going to be an up and down season, and Pardew's himself, I think he's done something this week, hasn't he? Where he said he's learning from the from when he was at Newcastle, and that Newcastle are learning from, obviously they were going in the wrong direction under him, and that he feels as though he's almost as a manager being a little bit inconsistent in the past, but he's making those sorts of noises as though he thinks that he's learned from last season as Palace manager and he's pushing forward. But you are going to be. It's going to be a laugh watching you. I think that's the thing I take from this season. I don't think you're going to go through that second half of the season run like you did last year, where you just couldn't buy a win. It was all just not working. There's Christian Benteke. You go back to the Aston Villa Christian Benteke, especially. He's got a hat trick in him. At any game, he could turn up and he could just bang a hat trick. And that's one of the reasons why Liverpool spent 32 million on him. One of the reasons why Palace went on and spent 32 million on him is he's a 20 goal a season striker, and at some point he could just simply turn up in a game, score 3. Palace could score 4. The opposition could still get 2 or 3, and yet that's the nature of Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I mean, that literally is what we're like. And I think we've never been a side that has been consistently good. I mean, this one season we went up, I think at Christmas, we were bottom of the table, and we went up that season. That year, we went up, so, sorry, someone just walked in the door. That season we got promoted after the Championship. I mean, one half of the season we're bottom, and the other half of the season, we went into the playoffs. That's crazy in the Championship. But we are that sort of team. I mean, obviously that's not what we want. We want to have a bit more consistency. I think when Scott Dan comes back in, I've been trying to check. I'm not sure if he's back in for Saturday or not. I think he might be. So with Dan back in, I think we're starting to get more solid. I think we're turning into, hopefully, a kind of top half of the table team. But I think this season, like I say, on Saturday night, I have no clue what's going to happen.
Dan is... He's massive, literally he's massive, but also he's massive for Palace. I think, if you could ask me to get almost anyone, apart from arguably Benteke, because of the all-player thing, and also that he's very, very good, one lad to ensure doesn't play this game, it would be Scott Dan. He's terrific from set pieces in both boxes. He organises, he talks. He's been great for Palace, and there's every chance he's going to be excellent at the weekend if he is fully fit.
Yeah, I mean, he will be. He absolutely will be. And to be honest with you, I was surprised we kept him. But they made him club captain, and I think that was quite a big thing. And he's the sort of lad that he knows he's adored at Palace, and now he's the club captain at Palace. It's like it's his team, and he can see it's going in the right direction. So I can see why he stayed. But yeah, I mean, he's huge. The set pieces, because I think if we are gonna beat you, then I think it will be you'll go up. It will be a set piece that gets us back into it, and then I think it will be a bit of a ding dong game back and forth, and then you don't know. I mean, we might just pinch one, especially at home as well. Our fans are amazing, so at home we do have the 12th man thing, like you do.
Yeah, I think that's been a big
Palace
deal.
And Liverpool, I think, are quite similar teams. Obviously, they're not similar in standard. You're a better team than us, But in everything else about the clubs, I think it's quite similar.
Both including the sort of areas where the ground is based. I think that's a really good point, to be honest with you. And then, the other player who doesn't look like he's going to make it for this one's Puncheon, which is a bit of a miss. But Townsend and Zaha, either side of Benteke, they're both capable of being very dangerous too. And the other thing I notice whenever I watch Palace is they also win the ball back a lot, and they win it quite high up the pitch. They're both very capable of putting the foot in, coming away with the ball, and then suddenly they've turned you around and they're running at you.
Yeah, I mean, but MacArthur at the moment, I think so far he's probably been the player of the season for us
Really?
so far, if you can say that this early on. James McArthur.
Really, has he?
He's been ridiculous. The amount of ground he's been covering. He kept Cabaye out of the team for a bit. They were playing a little bit differently without Cabaye. Cabaye's been on the bench. You know, he's not really come back in the team properly yet. I think he will for this game. But McArthur's been amazing. Really, really winning every tackle, passing. I mean, his stats are incredible. Jason Puncheon has set up more goal-scoring opportunities than anybody else in the league. That's crazy, isn't it, when you think of that?
But he's a good player, but it looks like he won't be fit for the weekend. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Yeah, I've heard he's not going to make it. I mean, Martin Kelly's another player that seems to be coming through and playing well.
Really?
He's another one. He's been stepping up because obviously Suarez got injured. He broke his leg in a car accident. And Kelly's come in and he's starting to find his feet really well. I mean, I think he's always needed a bit of a run of games at clubs, and he's getting that. And he's playing well as well. And Tompkins has fitted him really well. And even if Scott Dan's not playing, Damien Delaney just loves it. He's just I mean, he can make mistakes, but sometimes on his day, there was a game last season against Chelsea where he just had Costa in his pocket. It was just brilliant to watch. But then again, on other days, we can let in a pub football goal. Literally a pub football goal. You know, hit off someone's shin and just go through the keeper's legs or something like that.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now, Robbie, and say, well, have you got a prediction then? Because it doesn't sound like you have.
No, but I'm never going to say Palace aren't going to win a game. I'm predicting it won't be boring. I do have to say I think this is the best Liverpool team that we've played in a long time. I think they're better than I know Liverpool fans think that the 3-3 game didn't mean anything, but it did. So Christian Ball, as we like to call it. I think you're a better team now than then. I mean, if we get anything, I will be surprised, but I'm backing my team to win. I reckon it'll be a 3-2. I reckon it'll be a great game as well.
3-2. Okay, that's what Robbie thinks. We'll head back to the studio and think what everyone else thinks. It is the Anfield Wrap. That was Tom Petty with I Won't Back Down, Neil Atkinson, Andy Heaton, Gareth Roberts and John Gibbons with you now until 7:30. We're going to have a chat about Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. Before then, we want to say a big thank you to Ian and Helen from the Big Firework shop, which is in Warrington. It is the place to go to buy your fireworks for bonfire night, and Ian is a fan of the show as well, so it's really, really kind of him to get in touch and to hand us some fireworks, frankly, which is what he's done. And it's a quid pro quo arrangement. We're ruthless here at the Anfield Wrap. Unit 8, Tanning Court, Riverside Retail Park, Warrington. If you're worried about that, it's behind the DFS, thebigfireworkshop.co.uk, and they look fantastic. There was a handover into Rob Gutman's boot recently, and that's the way all fireworks should be dropped off.
We do all our deals.
Absolutely. All of our best deals on the back of bars and car parks. It's the Anfield Wrap's corporate model for you there. But Ian and Helen have been doing loads and loads of work with Radio City as well, so thanks to them for that. Okay, then Crystal Palace versus Liverpool. John Gibbons, Robbie Scotcher was bullish, and you would expect him to be, because the thing that I keep saying this, and I'm going to say it until I'm boring, the thing about inconsistent sides isn't that they're bad, it's that they're inconsistent. Yeah. They can be very good, they can be very bad, that's the point.
Yeah, I think Robert's going to tell me off because I'm going to say I'm a little bit worried about this game just because of the things that Palace are good at, really. I think that they like, putting one on the nose of the big boys. I think they're that kind of club, really. Obviously, they've
Saturday R5.
Yeah, it's Saturday R5. They've got quite a long relationship with Liverpool in their eyes, but maybe a little bit more. But the 1990s stuff and all that. The manager was there, then playing for them. He's still there, and I think they very much enjoyed that 3-3 game in terms of Christian Ball, and so I think it's a game they get up for. I think it's a game the fans to get up for. The style of play, we haven't looked great on crosses. Let's face it, the goalkeeper seems to be struggling on them a little bit. They get goals from set pieces. The second top of the set piece thing, Scott Dan is absolutely massive. He's back.
He loves heading it. Christian
Benteke's won more aerial duels than any other player in the Premier League, and so they're going to go high, they're going to go long, and they're going to battle, and they're going to be up for it. And I think Liverpool are going to have to be good to beat them. We're very, very capable of being good. And then there's also the counter-attack thing as well. I think we're going to see a lot of the ball, but they've got huge pace on the break. And when I saw them against, I think it was the West Ham game, they were very, very good at breaking. They were very direct, and so they've, they're a good team. I think, and a good team on the day, and maybe they've underachieved a little bit this season. I think probably, but seem to be getting their act together more and more as the season goes. And I think they are a dangerous opposition. And as I say, I think we're gonna have to be good to beat them.
Are we going to be good to beat them, Gareth?
Of course, we'll be good to beat them. How can't you get up for playing against Alan Pardew, because he's just the most annoying man in football in my book. And so you just pin his face on the wall. He's bound to have said
not his actual face, surely a picture.
Well, a picture of will do, yeah.
Whatever's available.
Yeah, whatever's going. If you can strip his face off and put that on the wall, I'm sure that'll work. And a few of his mad quotes that he's no doubt come out with because he's great at them. I think what's important here is that, last time we've won our last two there as well. I mean, there's a little bit of the narrative thing that I've talked about on other shows where we build up the opposition to be almost be something they're not, and it feels a little bit like it's going on again. We've won there in our last two. And the last one was super sweet as well, with the 96th minute penalty, which of course Christian Benteke scored. Pardew then goes on the telly and gives it pelters and calls him all kinds, and then he signs him.
Great
Funny
stuff.
Old game, isn't it? And all that makes
Saint.
So yeah, it's an interesting game. But what I thought was interesting about that game, if you remember, that James Milner got sent off. And I thought it was a result that of Klopp completely firing them up and saying, you're going to play a side here today that's physical, that's going to have the fight, and you need to match that. I know that's old school sort of manager tactics, but I think Klopp can do that at times, and I think he'll do that again tomorrow. I think you say to them, you've got better quality than these lads, but first and foremost you're going to have to fight for it and then show your quality. And if Liverpool do that, I think they can win. I mean, we're talking about people being good in the air up front and at the back for Palace. Matip's good, and him and Lovren together is starting to look like a real partnership that's working. No longer is there a conversation about, the downfalls of Dejan Lovren. No one's talking about him at the moment, and that's brilliant. And we are talking about Matip because he's looked fantastic. We got him on a free. And for me, you're starting to put him in the brackets. I know it's early, but we're starting to put him in the brackets of people like, a potential Sammy Hyypiä, if you like, in terms of being a bargain, in terms of being a potential leader and all the rest of it. So there's how do you stop Liverpool right now? When you're making your game plan to stop Liverpool, who are you targeting?
Well, on this, Andy, that's just one of the things I was going to say. Is it's difficult to sort of work out precisely how to stop this Liverpool side, as Gareth's saying there, firstly. But secondly, there's also a point here, which is I almost don't think Crystal Palace are necessarily miserable enough to get a result against us. The two, they're a bit too chaotic themselves. When we talk about their inconsistencies, they can be inconsistent across a half, let alone the idea of game to game. You do think that the opportunity will be there for Liverpool to get chances to turn them round, to go the other way?
Yeah, I'm alright with it. I don't think they're very good, to be honest. I think Dan and Benteke apart, I don't think there's much about them. And I don't like Palace, I'll be honest with you. Loads of people don't mind them, but I'll always have a score to settle with them.
You're going tomorrow, aren't you, to settle some scores?
I'm going. Yeah.
Hey, I'm a bit worried about this. I'm going with him. What are we doing?
You know what I'm going to do? You know that little dance that Pardew does in the cup final?
That dance?
Yeah, that one. We get like the fourth if he can get at it, and I won't be able to. I'd love to just do that in front of him. I hope Jürgen does that. Right in front of him and does a little jiggle.
Yeah, Jürgen's too busy giving him toffee.
No, if we're on it, if we're on it, we've got nothing to worry about, and we will be on it. We prove we'll be on it by the reaction against West Brom.
For me, it wouldn't be massive, John, because I think that you look at this run of games that we've had in November, and again, you just said 10 points. We'll take 10 points from these four. We've had the draw against United. We won all the games in between the previous international breaks. It's then just Watford at home left. It's the one which really makes you go, we're going to be keeping pace with everybody at an absolute bare minimum. I think a draw, a win, would be absolutely massive for this side.
No Balassi either. No Balassi.
No Balassi, no, for this side at this stage of the season.
Yeah, it would be a real big win. I think it feels like sort of another statement when it's another game where I think our rivals, if you like, for the top spots, we're looking and saying, well, what do Liverpool do there? Oh, yeah, you look pretty good in certain games. You look pretty good when we've been allowed to play. What are they going to be like at Palace? Maybe they're a little bit brittle. And it was funny when we were talking to Steve Armstrong about this a couple of weeks ago. He's obviously a Man United fan, right to the United we stand, and he was saying, the game I've been most impressed this season was Swansea away, because you didn't play that well, but you dogged it out and you kind of got the result last 20. And I think fans of Arsenal, fans of Chelsea, fans of Man City will be looking at this and thinking, oh, well, let's see what Liverpool are made of here a little bit. And if they can show it, if they can show the steel, I think it'll give them a lot of belief as well, in terms of going forward. Say, okay, there's some tougher ways coming up, but, we've got what it takes to beat them. We're too good.
Okay, I think 10 of the 11 picked themselves, so I'm going to ask you the question, each of you, who you're expecting to play and who would you play, Chan or Wijnaldum, John?
I'd play Wijnaldum. I think he'll go Chan.
Gareth?
I'd play Wijnaldum. I think he knits it together better. I've been really impressed with him, and I think he actually sort of got better in his absence as well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
In that you suddenly thought, oh well, yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah.
So I'd go Wijnaldum.
And do you think he'll play Wijnaldum?
Don't know. I think he might be tempted to go Chan because he'll think about the physical side.
Okay, Andy, Wijnaldum or Chan?
I'm all over Wijnaldum.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a good, strong body in there.
Okay, a win would be absolutely massive, as I said before. It would be the most exciting thing in the world, because right now supporting Liverpool is one of the most exciting things in the world. We should all be looking forward to 5:30 away at Selhurst Park. Liverpool go into Crystal Palace, and another win to stay joint top of the league after 10 games. What else if you're in it for, if not that? That's the Anfield Wrap.